we're going to be talking about integer operations. After this video, our goal is to be able to say, I can simplify operations with integers. We're going to look specifically at the four main math operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Well, to start with, what does simplifying mean? Simplifying means we are reducing the expression, fraction, or problem into a simpler form. We're not solving here, but we are simplifying. We are simplifying it into a smaller form of the same number. So we're going to start with our addition rules. We have two rules for addition, and addition rules are dependent upon the signs you see. So rules for same sign addition. What I mean by that is addition of problems that are each positive numbers or have two negative numbers. So rules for same sign addition is that we take the absolute values and we add the absolute values and we keep the available sign. So what do we mean by the absolute values? Let's say I have the numbers 7 plus 8. The absolute value is a number's distance from 0. So the absolute value of 7 is 7, which is 7 places from 0 on the number line. The absolute value of 8 is 8, which is 8 away on the number line. So 7 plus 8, we are adding those absolute values until we get 15, and we're keeping the sign. We know from other experiences that numbers with no sign mean that they're a positive. We can assume both of these numbers are positive. If these were both negative numbers, let's say we had -3 plus -4, the absolute value of -3 is 3. -3 is 3 places away from 0 on the number line. The absolute value of -4 is 4. 4 is 4 places away from 0 on the number line. So -3 plus 4, they would add up to be 7, and we keep the sign as negative because they both have a negative sign. Our next rule is for adding with different signs. So when I say different signs, what I'm talking about is adding two numbers like 17 plus -8, or -12 plus 1. So if I look at these two problems, how do I add with different signs? We're going to subtract the absolute values, and then we are going to keep the sign of the larger value. So basically, if there's more negatives, we'll keep it negative. If there's more positives, we'll keep it positive. So for example here, if I have 17 plus -8, the absolute value of 17 is 17. The absolute value of -8 is 8, because -8 is 8 spaces away. 17 minus 8 is going to give me 9. Now I'm going to look at this problem. I have 17 positives and I have 8 negatives. So if I have 17 positives and 8 negatives, I have more positive. My answer will be a positive 9. Here, if I have -12 plus 1, take the absolute value of -12, which is 12, the absolute value of 1, which is 1, and we're going to subtract them. I get 11. I look here, I have 12 negatives, and I only have 1 positive, so this problem will stay negative. This is how we subtract with different signs. So I'm going to pause this for a second. I want you guys to try the two examples down here, and we'll go over them together. Okay, so let's do the same sign addition. I didn't do any same sign additions like 4 plus 5 or 1 plus 11 because you guys know how to do addition of two positive numbers. But with two negative numbers, we say, okay, the absolute value of -1 is 1. The absolute value of -46 is 46. So we're going to add those together because they have the same sign, the sign being a negative. I get 47. And we're going to keep the sign they both had. They both had a negative, so our answer is -47. Adding with different signs. Here we go. So this one, the absolute value of -45 is 45. The absolute value of 9 is 9. We're going to subtract these. 45 minus 9. 45 minus 9 is going to give me 36. And I look and say, okay, I had 45 negatives and I have 9 positives. I have more negatives, so my answer is going to be negative 36. Okay, for this next one, we have negative 6 plus 12. So again, when I say subtract with the absolute values, the absolute value of negative 6 is 6, and the absolute value of 12 is 12. Now, if we do 6 minus 12, that might be confusing, but we know the absolute value of 12 minus 6 is 6. So once you're using those absolute values without the signs, you can just subtract from the larger number. So 12 minus 6 is 6, and I was going to say I have 6 negatives, and I have 12 positives, because we know even though we don't see a sign there, that's assumed to be positive, so our answer is going to be positive. So the cool thing about taking the absolute value here is it allows you to always subtract the way we know how to subtract. You're always able to do 45 minus 9 or 12 minus 6 because we're looking at those numbers independently of the problem. And then we're going back to look at the signs. Okay, so these are our rules for addition. Now, let's move on to our integer rules for subtraction. So the cool thing about the subtraction rules is that the integer rules for subtraction means that all subtraction problems can be written as addition problems. Okay, so all subtraction problems end up being addition problems. Well, how does that happen? We use the rule keep, change, change. So how does that look? Well, what we do is we start by keeping the first number of the problem. So in this example, we have negative 3 minus 8. So we're going to keep negative 3. Okay, we're going to keep that the same. All right, we're going to change the subtraction sign to addition. So we take the subtraction sign and we change it to addition. So we've kept the negative 3. We're changing subtraction to addition. And then we're going to change. We're going to change the sign of the second number to its opposite. So this was negative 3 minus 8. We knew that the 8 did not have a sign in front of it, so we assume it's a positive 8 because this is not part of the 8. This is the subtraction sign. So if I have negative 3 minus positive 8, I kept the negative 3. I changed my subtraction to addition, and I'm going to now change this positive 8 to a negative 8. Now this has just become a same sign addition problem. And we know from our previous examples, same sign addition, we add the two absolute values. So the absolute value of 3 is 3, and the absolute value of 8 is 8, and we get 11, and we keep the sign. The signs are negative, so we keep it as negative 11. So we're going to look at one more example of this. So let's look at one more set of subtraction examples here to follow the rules. So we have our first example is 7 minus negative 9. So let's work this example out. We're going to keep the 7. We're going to change negative or subtraction to addition. So from 7 stays, we change minus to a plus, and then this is a negative 9. So we're going to change it to a positive 9. And just like that, this tricky subtraction problem becomes same sign addition. So same sign addition, we know that rule says to add the values, add the absolute values, and keep the sign. So in this particular problem, both signs are positive. We know that because we understand if there's no sign, it's a positive sign. So we're going to add those together. We're going to get 16, and it's going to stay positive. In this example, I have negative 3 minus negative 11. So negative 3 we will keep. The minus sign we will change to addition. Negative 11 is now going to become positive 11. Now we have rules for different sign addition. So negative 3 and 11, we take the absolute values. We say, all right, the absolute value of 11 is 11. The absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. The difference between those two is 8. And we have 3 negatives and 11 positives, so our solution is going to stay positive as positive 8. So we follow the rules for different sign addition, which we know is to subtract the absolute values keep the sign of the greater amount. So those are our rules we're going to use here. Now I know it's a little bit confusing because you're like, well, you said all subtraction turns into addition. And that is true. All subtraction does turn into addition, but we understand that different sign addition includes subtracting the values. Okay? So what about multiplying and dividing? Well, multiplying and dividing are a little bit easier, pretty simple, if they are the same signs. When multiplying and dividing numbers with the same sign, the answer will always be positive. So as long as they're the same sign, your answer is going to be positive. So a positive times a positive is positive. A negative times a negative is positive. A positive divided by a positive is positive. A negative divided by a negative is negative, or is positive. And then if they're different signs, when multiplying and dividing numbers with different signs, the answers will always be negative. So we have our negative answer here because a positive times a negative is negative, and a negative divided by a positive is negative. And it does not matter if the problem is negative, positive, or positive, negative. The answer will always be negative. We have this multiplying and dividing cheat sheet that you guys can add into your notebook to help you remember your multiplying and dividing rules. We have a little graphic with the happy smiley faces. A positive, positive, or negative, negative will both be positive and happy. If they're different signs, a positive, negative, or a positive or a negative, positive will be negative, and they'll be unhappy. You also have your tic-tac-toe board here to kind of remember the order. It doesn't matter the order you go in, you'll always have the answer here. So for example, a positive 7 times a negative 3 will be a negative 21. A positive 60 divided by a negative 5 will be a negative 12. But then if I go this way, a negative 12 times a negative 1 will be a positive 12. So the order you go in with this, as long as you do positives down the middle and fill in the rest with negatives, kind of tells you kind of what your answer will be, as well as the Mickey Mouse ears, where you can say a negative and a negative will equal a positive. A positive and a negative, though, if we match those two up, a positive and a negative will equal a negative. And the Mickey Mouse ears remind you this is for multiplying and dividing rules. So I hope this information helps so you feel a little bit better about operations with integers. I hope you can confidently say that you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers. Good luck.